A little while ago, I thought it would be fun to build a small two-stroke engine primarily from whatever I could find at Home Depot. And it actually worked. Well, not without its problems. A lot of problems. But beyond just making my local HOA very mad with its ungodly amount of smoke, I've never really done anything with it. So, inspired by all of your suggestions, today we're putting this thing to the test. And what better way than by building the motorcycle we have at home. But first, I'll need a bike. And this old bike that I've had lying around for years is going to be perfect. Although it may not be in the best condition, which I can't imagine why. All that it needed was a few minutes of some basic maintenance, before we were back in business. After that's out of the way, now I just need an engine. But as much as I'd love to, I can't just slap this thing onto the bike. Well, not in this condition anyways. There still is quite a few things that it needs. The biggest being the fact that it has no way to keep cool. Now, if you're unaware of what happens to an overheating engine, well, nothing good. If I want this thing to have any fighting chance, I've got to keep it from overheating, and I think the easiest solution is to just add some fins onto the cylinder, so that way the excess heat can be passed onto the surrounding air. In other words, turning the top of the engine into a big heatsink. And I think I should be able to make some fins and fit them on the cylinder that I already have. So after I got this big piece of sheet metal from the hardware store, I then cut it down into 12 square blanks. Which, by the way, was a lot of fun. Anyways, once I got a whole bunch of them, I then threw them into the lathe to bring them down to the final size. And a few hours later, I've got a whole stack of these rings. Some of them fit on just fine, but for the fins that'll be going around the cylinder, I needed to cut them in half so that I could join them around the middle. Which now begs the question, how? Well, with some of this. Now, this isn't your regular kind of solder. This solder is specifically designed to bond with steel. Soldering's not going to be as strong, but for just sticking on some cooling fins, it'll be totally fine. Now, I can't say that I've ever used any of this stuff before, so it did take me a little while to get the hang of things. Oh yeah, that looks like complete shish. The problem that I kept running into was that the fin would be free to move around while the solder was melting, which made it nearly impossible to work with. But then I discovered the best technique was to use a very small tack weld to hold it in place, so that way it doesn't come loose while I'm soldering it together. And this actually seemed to work really well. So after I spent the next couple of hours soldering on the rest of the fins, I then gave everything a quick refresh before putting it all back together. And now the cylinder is complete. It may not look quite as nice as what I had planned, but all that really matters is the fins are stuck on. But do you know what's not? The flywheel. Because it seems like every time that I make one of these engines, the flywheel always seems to, fly off. Bye-bye! I guess that putting all of my trust into a tiny piece of steel was a bad idea. So, I'm gonna fix that. Once I finally get the shaft off the engine, that is. I want to modify this part of the shaft by adding a hub onto the backside, which would then allow me to just bolt the flywheel directly to the crankshaft. So to make the hub, I first turned down this piece of steel until it was the right size. Then after boring a big enough hole through it, I then welded it to the back of the shaft, which might I say, was not bad. Anyways, once I was done drilling all of the holes, then I just needed to make a few modifications to the flywheel before welding it back onto the engine. And now I have a way to create a direct mechanical connection between the crankshaft and the flywheel. So all that was left to do was weld on a set of motor mounts, and then I could finally put the whole thing back together. And lo and behold, it does not run. I don't understand. It ran fine before I took it apart. But now, Nothing. I tried messing with the intake, I swapped in a new spark plug, but still, nothing. Well, that is until I sprayed some starter fluid down the intake. Which led me to believe that something might be wrong with the fuel. And sure enough, looks like all of the gas has evaporated away, leaving behind what is essentially pure oil. So, after a quick midnight trip to the gas station to get some fresh fuel, I whipped up a new blend, and now it's back in business. So, now that the engine is all up to snuff, now would be a great time to get it all hooked up. But there's a problem. You see, most bikes are constructed in a way in which the top tube intersects with the top corners of the frame. But for whatever reason, the people behind this thing decided to have it joined down the middle. Which means for me, the engine does not fit. So, unless I were to make the engine smaller, the frame will need to get bigger. Now, I'd prefer if I didn't have to chop up the frame, but given that this whole thing was made from steel, it really wasn't all that hard to just reposition the tube where I needed it. And after a bit of welding later, and also retying the brakes, which are kind of important, the frame now looks like this. My welds may not be quite as nice as the factory ones, but as far as I can tell, they're holding on just fine. And more importantly, now I've got plenty of room to mount the engine. Great! But that's only the engine. Remember all of these guys? Well, I gotta find a home for them too, as well as a few other things. So I got started by 3D printing this bracket, which just slips over the frame, holding both the ignition coil and the fuel tank at the same time. Now, to work out the throttle, I ended up just buying one of these things that slip over the handlebars. And installing it does mean that I will have to sacrifice the gear shifter, but with the condition that mine was in, I wasn't all that concerned. And just in case you've never done this before, basically you put one end of the cable into this part on the throttle, and then the other end just goes into the barrel of the carburetor, and then bam, there you have it. Now for the battery, it's kinda tough. Because it's so big and kind of awkward, the only place that I can really put it is just right underneath the seat. And I know that's kind of a strange place to put it, but as long as it doesn't explode, we should be good. Now, if we bring our attention back to the engine for just a moment, I would like to give this thing an actual exhaust. Or at the very least, one that's much better than this. So I went out and found this big piece of pipe, which should be perfect for making an exhaust. Not bad. I know that having an expansion chamber would maximize its peak power output, but even just having a straight pipe like this does actually help with scavenging. At least a little bit. But anyways, once all the electronics were hooked up and working correctly, all I've got to do now is get this thing moving.
Is it doing anything?
Once I did finally get it off, I made this pulley that goes right onto the flywheel. And then I got this much larger one, which I'm going to mount right here. Now my plan is to run a belt drive between these two pulleys, and then have a tensioner which will serve as the clutch, similar in function to the clutch on a lawn tractor. Now, when it comes to belts, many of them were either too big or a lot more than what I was willing to fork over. And not to mention, some of these Kevlar belts are just way too stiff for what I need. Which got me thinking, what if I just made my own? I mean, I've done it in the past to replace a belt on my drill press, and it's still doing alright. I whipped up this belt design in Onshape, which I'm going to print out of this. This stuff is very flexible, and it also has a texture that feels a lot more like plastic than rubber, which is just what I'm looking for. And I would love to print this out of my Neptune 3, since it's got this fancy direct drive extruder, which makes printing a breeze. But because the bed size is too small, I instead had to print it out on my much larger CR10, which is really slow. But when that was done, now you can see it fits pretty well. And to stop the belt from stretching out too much, I just wrapped a bunch of fishing line around the spine of the belt, which actually seemed to do the trick. So, after repurposing one of the pedals to make a clutch, now you can see that everything works exactly how it should, which is great. However, my first time on the bike was not. Almost immediately, the fishing line that I wrapped around the belt started coming off, which isn't really too surprising given how loosely I wrapped it, but that's not even the biggest problem. While the engine seems to run just fine, the moment that I even get near the clutch, the engine completely dies. Even with a good run-up, still, no luck at all. Now, the belt wasn't that hard to fix. All that it needed was something to wrap around the spine to keep all the cords inside. But the bigger problem is that this engine does not have enough torque. Even just the slight drag from the brakes is enough to make it stall.
God, why does this suck so bad?
And this is after I've already swapped all the sprockets around, to try and make the gearing as low as possible. But clearly, that's not enough. As I did some rough calculations, and determined that the back wheel was spinning at a maximum speed of 77 kilometers an hour. I don't think this thing has enough power to do even half of that, which means that I'll need to reduce the gearing. By a lot. So, with some pulleys that I got online, I used some leftover scrap metal that I had, and whipped up what is essentially a giant speed reducer. And now, it actually works. Well, kinda. Yeah, I may have gone a little overkill in the gearing. You see, when I got these things, I had assumed that together they would make a ratio of 4:1, as one has 20 teeth and the other has 80. So by adding another set in series, hypothetically, this should have a final drive of 16:1. But nope, because when I spun the inputs side by hand, I counted a ratio of 21. And this may not seem like a big difference, but if I count for everything in the drivetrain, that would give me a maximum speed of only 6 kilometers an hour, which is so slow that I could barely get out of this guy's way. But if I reorganize the pulleys to make them in parallel with one another, I can make the wheel spin much faster, while also keeping the gearing low enough. So, after adding all the finishing touches, the bike is completely finished, and it seems to ride around okay too. So, after getting it loaded up into the back of my car, just barely,
Is that gonna pop back open?
Yep. Yes. You gotta ratchet strap that down too.
we then drove out to find a good location where we could test the bike.
Is the seat supposed to be turned?
Oh, that might have happened because I toe strapped it so hard.
Oh my god, the tongs are literally at your nuts. Like,
That was crazy.
no fuel tank ever.
Yeah, it's not good.
Now my plan is to use the hill to accelerate the bike, and then once it reaches the bottom of the hill, it should be going fast enough that it can carry itself on. So, we walked all the way up the hill for the first test. Now, it may not look all that impressive, but I could actually feel the engine pulling the bike up to speed, until it was going as fast as it could.
What happened?
I think I blew it up.
Oh no.
It's not hot. It has compression still.
I can hear you coming.
Maybe we'll try that one more time.
Yep.
So I went back up the hill and tried it once again. And this time it felt pretty good. But once I'd hit the bottom of the hill, one of the chains popped off and stopped the test.
So the problem is, this is like bent,
Yeah.
like that way. So now the chain wants to keep coming off. So I've got to loosen these and then realign it.
I tried it once again, but it was the same story. The chain kept popping off, stopping the test. But if it's only the chain causing me problems, then it shouldn't be too hard to fix. So, when I got back home, I wrapped some fishing line around the tensioner to make the rear chain tighter, and I also added this little idler pulley to remove some of the slack from the front chain. But even still, I tried again, and again, and again. But now I think I've got bigger problems, as now the engine does not want to stay running, making this like the 7th time that I've blown it up. Now, am I upset? Maybe. But I guess this just means that I'm gonna have to build a much better engine. So subscribe, and I'll do that.